NBC Sports Radio AM 1060 KDUS Tempe Phoenix and KSLX HD2 Scottsdale Phoenix.
And welcome to Real Hockey Talk right here on NBC Sports Radio AM 1060. Greg here alongside Rick, the hockey guru, and our great producer crew. In studio today, abbreviated show, so don't be sad, but we're only on an hour and a half today. So up until 1:30, but all hockey talk. And, of course, we get to watch the Coyotes, the matinee in Ottawa, and already some action on at the end of the first period, Philly and Calgary, a 3-1 Philly lead, and then Edmonton and Dallas also about to get going here in the next couple minutes. So a lot of good action here early in the day, a lot of matinee hockey, which you can't go wrong with. And,
no, not at all.
And that's great. We got our TV in here, get to watch the game. And, you should watch the game and have us on in the background. You don't need McConnell and Tyson Nash today. Nothing against them, but have us.
That's right. That Calgary score, interesting. No Mike Smith. What a different team.
Yeah. So he's that's the thing with Smith. He's battled injury a lot of his career. It's unfortunate. I mean, you never want to see that, but.
Well, this one they're saying is upper body.
Upper body?
Right. So the lower body, which would concern me again with abdominal and groin.
Yeah.
They're saying upper body. They're vague about it. They did say he could be in place by the Philadelphia game. I'm assuming he's not in net today. I think we have to probably check that.
You know what? He actually might be. Let me double check.
Let's roll the tape.
I thought I saw his picture there.
He's
back in net. Yeah.
Well, he has made 9 saves.
Yeah.
It's 3 he's missed.
Yeah, getting back in it takes a little time there, and especially in the league now. I mean, it just seems like this season, nothing like the 80s, early 90s, but we're seeing goals, it seems like more so than the last couple of years.
It's good he's back, because this year for injuries in the NHL has been brutal.
It's been ridiculous. Yeah, I saw you mention the Bruins, half their lineup or whatever.
Providence Bruins.
Yeah, and we just see it everywhere. Star players going down, but depth players, I'm not sure why.
I was asking somebody about that, because if you look at injuries in the NFL are up too.
Yeah.
And what they're saying is they don't practice as hard as they used to because it's been regulated out in the collective bargaining agreement, so they don't have as many contact practices. They're shorter. And that could be attributing to some of the NFL injuries. On the NHL side, I just think it's a fact that guys are bigger, stronger, they're going faster, and it's almost like the 25-man rosters aren't big enough right now.
It's possible. Yeah, it is interesting. Yeah, they do say, I know with the NHL teams, as you mentioned with the practices, I'll hear about how teams, are getting to that point where on an off day, they really take an off day. Versus, getting everyone out there or the optional practice perhaps. So, yeah, maybe that's it. It's definitely been odd. You could say coincidence, all that stuff, but definitely crazy how just seems like every game.
It's you almost cringe. You want to see who's out today.
Yeah, exactly. A lineup's always different, or you're expecting a lineup, and then warm-ups begin, and you're like, hey, where's this player at? And then you'll hear, he suffered a minor injury, and then a few weeks later they're still out. And
so it's the rosters with depth. If you go back to Pittsburgh the last 2 years, this system that they had coming up from Scranton with all those college kids and those plug-and-play and the Rusts and Sherrys and Gensels of the world, and then you see the benefit when the guys get healthy. These guys have had a chance to have minutes, so I'm putting my Bruins hat right now. You've got all these guys playing right now. Okay, when Backus and Spooner and all these guys come back, these guys have had, they've been branded by fire.
Yeah.
And it could only help. So every team right now needs to have, they have 4 lines on the ice, but you have to have 16 players that you can count on up front. Oh, yeah. You have to have 8 defensemen that you can count on.
Oh, basically.
And 3 goalies. And Las Vegas would argue you need 5 because they went all the way down to Dylan Ferguson.
Unbelievable.
Right, and he got sent back to Kamloops the other day. And I'm concerned about how long Marc-Andre Fleury, he's been out over a month now.
Oh, it's unbelievable. Well, it's unbelievable they've been still able to, keep
compete.
up. I mean, think about it. If never want to use injuries as an excuse because every team, especially now, battling injury. But man, oh man, think if they had Fleury during this time, and Subban coming back, that's nice, but definitely crazy.
It is.
I don't think I've ever seen it with goaltending that bad. I mean, I have seen in the past things where at times, like Vegas had to do for a little while with I believe it was Legacy, they go to their fourth string goaltender, but sometimes it's very minor thing where it might just be for one game and then one of the other guys is ready to go. But something like this, I mean, where you get to your fifth string guy basically.
Oh, and you know what? And they've all played well.
Yeah, that's amazing, really.
I mean, when I know I'm not going to get any dry ice in here. How'd you like to be in Anaheim? I'm going to just fire through the list of injuries. Man. Kessler, Eves, Fowler, Getzlaff, Bull, Case, Ryan Miller, and Hannos Lindholm.
Yeah, it is amazing. I mean, I was hoping Corey Perry would be on but
he almost was the other night.
Yeah,
almost.
Perry, no, we don't wish anyone getting hurt, but definitely crazy what the Ducks are going through. And they have some depth that has been a little surprising up front in a way, at least. I mean, the good thing is a guy like Raquel, how he broke through last year, so you still have some firepower up there, and on the back end there's some stuff. But man, it's unbelievable when you're without your top two center icemen like that.
Right.
You would just think you would fold basically, but the thing with them is if you stay in that race, and then when they start to come back, I mean, it's like a great trade deadline edition, but more than one edition it will be.
Well, some teams aren't going to be able to use injuries as an excuse, like Dallas.
Oh, yeah.
They've had, Mark Mathot, I think, is the only guy out on IR.
Yeah.
All right, that doesn't explain why they're 500 hockey team.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, I just think I haven't seen many Dallas games, but maybe Hitchcock coming back, even though there's some good stuff, obviously. He's been around so long and, overall, obviously a good coach. But, maybe it's difficult with what they were used to before these players and now a whole different type of system you would think would be put in place. Maybe it's taking them a little extra time or whatnot. But, yeah, definitely, I thought, maybe Dallas wouldn't make the playoffs or have a tough time. Now, it's still obviously so early, and everyone's so close together still. You run a little streak here, and you're, have a pretty good standing. But, yeah, definitely you would think by now maybe things would start picking up there.
Well, and keeping in the spirit of me bashing Marty Hansel, who I said at the time was the worst free agent signing maybe in the history of hockey, how'd you like him to be a number 2 center? Through 16 games, he's got a goal. He's got 2 assists, so he's piling it on for 3 points. So he's on a real run.
It's terrific.
He's minus 12, and he's not even averaging 2 shots a game.
Oh, man. Now, is he their number 2 guy, or is Spezza playing wing?
I believe he has been called their number 2 center.
Oh, okay. Because the thing with Hansel is this. If he's in his proper role on a good team as, like, let's say a number 3 guy, he's fantastic defensively, although with the other numbers you mentioned, even though plus-minus I think could be overrated sometimes, but it sounds like he's not doing the job defensively either. And that's the thing. There's little things he could do if he's healthy that really help a team, but, yeah, possibly that's not happening. And, for Dallas, I mean, they got to hope that changes. And they got blown out by Tampa the other night, but everyone's really getting blown out by Tampa.
They're head and shoulders the best team in hockey right now.
These guys are making, Kucherov and Stamkos, their eyes are closed, and they just somehow sense where it's like Gretzky and Curry type of thing out there.
And Vasilevsky is playing fantastic. And we'll see what Vasilevsky and Dabrowski do come May.
Yeah, true.
That's been their Achilles heel, and I know they've both had help between the ears to try to overcome that. So a long way to go. We're only 20% through the season, but it's been interesting. There's no question about it.
It's been a fun start, and and seems like, again, I don't have the actual stat for this, but for a while there, especially in the 90s, dead puck era, and and even after the first lockout in 2004, you had that situation where you score the first goal of the game, you're probably going to win. It seems different now. It seems like we're seeing 2-3-0 leads vanish just like that.
Right.
which is exciting. I mean, if your team has the lead and blowing it, yeah, that's no fun. But still, it's fun overall to see this going on. No games are over really until it's over.
And maybe it's because they've been consistent on their penalty calls.
Yeah.
The key will become playoffs because, without a doubt, that first goal scored in the playoffs is huge.
Oh, yeah.
It's deadly,
Definitely.
And let's see if they're going to be consistent through the playoffs.
Oh, absolutely.
They need to be. If they change now, that's not right.
Oh, yeah. To me, yeah, consistent. The one thing they got to get on track is the gray area around, and we talked about it a little last week, is the goaltender interference on the coaches' challenges. It's just, and I forgot who it was the other night. Maybe it was Anaheim or some team. Some of the players after the game literally are like, we do not know what the rule is anymore because our guy wasn't even, touching the goaltender, and they call it back, or someone really does mess with the goaltender, and then they go, no, it's a good goal. So it's something I think they got to get more consistent, or the league has to really, push the rule saying this is exactly what it is, and maybe, I don't know how they really take the gray area out of something like that, though.
Yeah, it's so subjective. Yeah. I mean, it's almost impossible to, but you know who the repeat offenders are.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, absolutely. And now, Rick, just us today.
Yes.
So we'll have some fun with What Did You Learn? Because we'll be talking about probably more current events versus, hey, this past week I learned something that happened in 1947.
Or 1927.
1927.
And then the quiz starts, and we have no chance of winning.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
But we'll be kind. So
yeah.
So without Dave and Eric here, I've got a couple to throw out there. I'll jump in.
Sure, yeah.
Interesting. And this, once again, goes back to my theme of marketing the game of hockey in the desert.
Yeah.
Or the lack of marketing hockey here in the desert. Okay.
Right.
I found out that the Vegas Golden Knights, I think this is brilliant, broadcast their games in Spanish in the Las Vegas area on ESPN Deportes on AM 1460. I was when I was tooling around the greater Phoenix area this week for work and listening to the NHL Network. They had the play-by-play announcer Jesus Lopez and his color analyst Alvaro Puentes on.
Very good.
And they showed some. They played some cuts of them and how exciting it's been. They're getting good ratings. They're reaching out into the community. There is a large Hispanic population that is attending Golden Knights games. They're treating it somewhat like a soccer game. When there's a goal, you get that goal. But what I thought was really funny is, they asked, well, where do you go and listen to tapes to find out how to call a game in Spanish? And they couldn't find anyone. But they found one. They found a Disney spot in Spanish when Goofy was playing hockey.
Oh, okay.
And they listened to that. I mean, these are they're knowledgeable guys. They understand the game of hockey, but the key is they're broadcasting it in Spanish. It's the part of that community outreach.
Yeah. I
think it's fantastic. So then it caused me to let me look around who else is doing it. Florida Panthers a little bit of doing it.
Yeah.
I checked down here, and unless I'm wrong, we're not doing it in the Valley.
Yeah, I don't think the Coyotes are. I think some of the other teams out here might be doing it.
Baseball, I know that. I think even football is. I think even the Cardinals and the Suns are.
Yeah, I agree. That would be a great thing to do, and I don't believe the Coyotes are doing that.
No.
And if they are and somehow we've missed it, our apologies. But
I was digging. I couldn't find it, but I thought that was pretty smart. Hats off to the Golden Knights once again.
Oh, absolutely. Man, they're doing such an amazing job.
They are. It really is. It's a canvas print. Paint it, and they're filling in the numbers perfectly.
Oh yeah.
What have you got?
Man, what did I learn? Well, a little of it is sort of what we talked about earlier, possibly with how this season it just seems like games are different in the sense of these lead changes, and they always said like a 2-goal lead is the worst lead in hockey because sometimes a team that's up might dwindle down a little bit, play back a little versus staying as aggressive, and you know what could happen with that. But It's funny because it seems like you still sort of have that defensive style with the league, but on the other hand, there's just enough offense now, and maybe teams are changing their system around a little bit, the speed, whatnot, is that now, you see that, team jump out to an early lead, not just 1-0, but they'll have a 2-0 lead, maybe 3-0. Second period starts, 10 minutes later, it's 3-3 and back and forth. And I love it. I mean, this is nice to see because you still will see your solid defensive games and all that good stuff. Goaltending, obviously, is still great per se, but on the other hand, yeah, we're seeing teams find ways to put pucks in the net. It seems like more. I don't have the exact numbers. I know goal scoring was up quite a bit as of, like 2 weeks ago or so. Right. But these lead changes I just love because one thing you hate is when, it's 2-0 already, game's over. But now it's like we're seeing things, it seems like, where, there's a minute left in a game, team up by 2, and the team that's trailing still finds a way, gets 2 quick goals to tie it, or at least one, and makes it really interesting. So I like what we're seeing thus far. And a little of it, too, as you mentioned, Rick, consistency with some of the calls here and there. So, that helps. But I just think, there's that speed game and, emphasis on that. Yes. So these offensive players, even if the guys don't have the greatest hands, they're able to get the puck in the zone, start a cycle, and at some point generate that top-notch opportunity, and there it goes in.
I agree with you. One thing I'm noticing too, Earl, is that teams are pulling the goalie earlier.
They are, yeah.
They are, and they're taking the risk. Mm-hmm. Puck possession is such a huge part of the game. There's trust in it, trust in the players you're putting out on the ice, and they're taking that risk. Mm-hmm. And it's been fun to watch. I just hope it continues because the talent of the NHL is on full display.
Oh, it's amazing. And as we were talking about with all the injuries earlier, the depth of some of these teams is showing up. It shows the parity of, just how great these young guys are out there as they continue moving up the ranks and then get to the NHL level. Right. And, hockey everywhere, but USA, just how it's the development programs have been awesome. And, you always talk about that with the college hockey, teams really got to look that route. I mean, there's a lot of talent there.
And, I think injuries are going to be such a persistent part of the game right now. To go back in the day, season would end. First of all, it wouldn't end in June. It would end in the first week of May.
Yeah.
When Bobby O scored that goal, I think it was May 10th, back in 1970. Teams are playing longer, and when the season ends, you go right back to work.
Yeah.
You might take a week or a 10-day vacation, but you're back in the gym. You're back in with your physical trainer. Mm-hmm. You're back in doing all your nutrition, even skating, okay? And if you take that, because if players don't do that, it's become such a social change in hockey that if you're not on that level, you're done. Mm-hmm. So guys now come into camp. They're already ripped. They're already in shape. They're already bigger. They're already stronger. And I'm not saying the body doesn't have a time to heal down, but back in the day, probably up into the 80s, you'd go home, the season would end, you'd go on a 5-week vacation.
Oh, yeah.
And you come back to camp, and camp would be 6 weeks. You get yourself in shape, and off you go.
Yeah.
Now it's such a year-round thing that you're just going to get hurt.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah, now, too, with camp is that camp opens up, and like 2-3 days later, you already have your first preseason game.
I know, right.
It's crazy. But no, you're right, because I think Wayne Gretzky had once said, I've never lifted a weight. Back when he played, he was like 160, but most of the league, even the bigger guys, they just use training camp as their means to at least get into game shape. But it's exhausting sometimes just to think about what these players do, and you see that, and even I just do adult hockey right now, but. Sometimes you see some of the ASU guys there, rink I play at, and doing their thing, and you could, even on YouTube, you could look some of these workouts.
Oh, it's incredible.
We talked about that over the summer. Unbelievable. I'm like, how do these guys do that?
Oh, right. Yeah, it's that's the game. That's how it's changed. So it reflects on the product on the ice and the game. I just think that they're going to have to take a look at the roster sizes.
Yeah, possibly.
Or they're going to have that American Hockey League team so closely associated geographically to your building that you can get on the car and drive back and forth.
Oh, yeah.
Because you're seeing it. You're seeing it.
Yeah, and we're seeing, with the Pacific Division teams, the ones that, with the Coyotes having Tucson and L.A., Ontario.
San Jose's in the same building.
Yeah, it's great how they're doing that, and it has paid off, and we've seen it with some of these teams kind of do that,
right.
Even if there's not injury per se, but maybe an opportunity, maybe get a guy up temporarily, at least to skate with the team if the AHL team's off for a couple days.
Right.
Things like that. So, yeah, hopefully around the league, stuff like that continues. Because I'm not sure with the East Coast teams, a lot of them, if they're really close per se.
The Bruins are like in Providence, right? Yeah, the New York teams in Hartford and
Philly.
You do have that. Philly's in the same town. Scranton, Wilkes-Barre, Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
I know Montreal at a time had a team. I don't know where they are right now, but they were in the Maritimes. Toronto's is the same.
They're right there.
They're right there.
So that's good.
Yeah, you have to have that.
Mm-hmm.
I think Anaheim still has the Norfolk Admirals.
Yeah. Oh, no, they have San Diego.
San Diego Gulls, okay.
Yeah, so they're
So they're not the Admirals anymore. So they're not going 3,000 miles to send players, which is good.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
That's a big part of hockey right now, the system. Not only the scouting, not only the development program, but that having a core group of 10 guys on your American Hockey League roster that are plug and play.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, and that's why with Pittsburgh, like you said, how it worked, because they were able to bring guys up there that already knew that system.
They set the standard. They set the standard. There's no question about it.
Absolutely, and seeing teams kind of jumping on board with that, and we'll see if, Pittsburgh going for the three-peat this year.
Yeah.
We'll see. Maybe
it's going to be tough. They have their issues. They've been exposed. Another hats off to the Vegas Golden Knights. They don't even have a full American Hockey League complement right now.
Right.
They're sharing, and that shows you what they were able to do with their goaltending by bringing, Dylan Ferguson down from Kamloops in the Western Hockey League. It's pretty amazing, and they know when they brought him down, they had a limited amount of time they could bring him, or else they'd have to, you're going to do something with me here.
Oh, absolutely. It's just crazy, what they've had to go through with that. And Subban's back now, so, yeah, that helps. That's a start there. And, as you mentioned earlier, we'll see with Marc-Andre Fleury. Hopefully it's not too much longer. We'll check it out and kind of see what might be out there with that. Because, that will definitely be huge to get him back, sort of their star attraction. But, having a number one guy like that, what it could mean to the team in general. But this is Real Hockey Talk, broadcasting here on NBC Sports Radio AM 1060. In studio today, Greg and Rick, the Hockey Guru. We'll be right back.
Hey, this is Luis Gonzalez of the Arizona Diamondbacks. Join my friend Brian Krebs every Thursday from 8 to 8:30 p.m. on NBC Sports Radio AM 1060.
And welcome back to the Real Hockey Talk right here on NBC Sports Radio AM 1060. Greg alongside Rick, the Hockey Guru. And, we're going to talk a little bit about Joe Sakic, who, I think everyone on the show and probably anyone everywhere was like, man, is he going to botch this Matt Duchene thing? Does he have phone service? What's going on? And then what happens, Rick?
He pulls off a beauty.
Yeah, absolutely.
At least right now, it's if you look at what his haul was, is the term to use. He's got a top-ranked potential defenseman in Samuel Girard from Nashville. Now, They pry him from Nashville because Nashville has depth at the blue line. My only concern about this guy, he's very flashy. Mm-hmm. He's a little undersized. He's under 6 feet tall. He did play in Quebec Major, and that's like a wide open league with it's not like the Western Hockey League, but he's highly ranked. They picked up Kamenev, the other player. Mm-hmm. And then they got, they picked up Andrew Hammond. That's depth for goaltending. but then they get, all the draft picks. He did well. And, and I think in Nashville, getting Kyle Turris, locking him in, now they're going to make him run out of the West because the West is wide open right now again.
Yeah.
And they've got 3 solid lines with Hansen, Turris, and Bonino. And arguably, you could say Turris is number 1. I mean, that's just me. Johansson's only scored a goal.
Right.
And what did Ottawa get? They got Duchesne for, 2 years?
Yeah, basically. Rest of this year and next year, and we'll see. I mean, they must somehow think when they made the move that they'd be able to get him signed before he reaches free agency after next season. But, Turris was coming up this offseason, so I get why if they thought they wouldn't get something done with him. But I would think that, because Turris from Nashville got the 6x6.
Right.
And I would think Duchesne would get at least similar, if not
You would
more.
think.
Yeah.
You would think his body of work is there. I mean,
yeah, so it's interesting to see that. And, yeah, I mean, it is crazy what Ottawa, in a way, gave up because Shane Bowers was their first-round pick this past draft. And then the other first-rounder going and the third-rounder. Now, obviously, Hammond probably doesn't really have much trade value in there.
No.
But it's almost equivalent. Ottawa, giving up 2 first-rounders and a third to get – Duchesne, but the fact that Colorado receives that plus the package from Nashville, it's like, what? It's unbelievable.
Yeah, and if you look at the teams that didn't pull the deal, I mean, Boston, I can speak for the Bruins because they were supposedly in on it.
Yeah.
And they were dropping, Brandon Carlisle.
Right.
Carlisle, because there's Rob O'Gara, things like that.
Yeah.
I'm kind of glad the Bruins stuck to their plan.
Oh, yeah.
With youth. What I'm seeing right now in Brandon Carlisle is the similar second-year sophomore, a little slip back. You got to get those 200 games under your belt, and he's struggling a little bit this year. It's really been the Charlie McAvoy show.
Yeah.
Who's playing outstanding. So I'm glad the Bruins didn't do it.
Right.
There's always somebody that was going to blink, and Joe Sakic found a couple of teams to blink.
He absolutely did. Just outstanding what he was able to come up with. I mean, you can almost say equivalent of 2 first-rounders, a second-rounder, and then with the other 2 prospects, too, involved. But, yeah, and Bowers, I think, is at BU playing, I believe.
I believe
and
so,
yeah. We'll see how he really develops down there. But, yeah, definitely good asset value that Sakic came up with. And Colorado, surprisingly, they're having a nice season, I think, by the standards.
Early on, right.
We thought, yeah, definitely. And so we'll see everything there and what else Joe Sakic may have in store. Because I think some Avalanche fans are now like, oh, okay, our GM may know what he's doing. Or,
he may.
Yeah, or maybe someone took control of his body and Pierre Lacroix somehow came back in and, got this done.
It's all who you draft and how it works. I mean, Bowers, we have the Ottawa Red Blacks, if I'll call them that, if going CFL term, just took a 1-0 lead here. Yeah. Mark Stone, brother of Michael Stone, netting his 13th.
Wow, nice season so far, yeah.
Yeah. But it's what you do at the draft picks now. It's your scouting board. It's your vision in Europe. It's your vision in college hockey, all the junior hockey teams. What you come up with. Right now, the Coyotes hopefully are spending a lot of money in that area. Because is this the Rasmus Dahlin? Do the ping pong balls fall right for the Coyotes? Yeah. And arguably, this guy's the first round pick right now as a defenseman.
Yeah, Dahlin looks good. Yeah, it's probably one of the best defensive prospects, I mean, you could say in years, since maybe, Doughty or Hedman and guys like that. And, yeah, so he would obviously be a great get as of now for whoever, could win the draft lottery. But we'll also see, because a lot of time to go, but some good options there towards the top. And it's, after you draft these guys, the player development is huge and how you develop these guys. So it'll be interesting to watch the Avalanche with not just some of these prospects coming over, but a lot of picks they have coming up, things like that. Is, you may pick the guy that seems like the right guy, but also the development afterwards. And a lot of it is on the team, the organization as well, and help them on the right path. So we'll see what happens there with that. And, a team that has had the rebuild for quite a while, of course, with the Coyotes. Now, Rick, you want to talk a little bit about the team? I mean, finally getting that first regulation victory. And I know it was almost like they won the Stanley Cup. It
was a big weight was lifted off their back, which was great to see. If you almost look at that game, because Montreal had the lead, and they had chances. Nice goal right there by Anthony Duclair, who, my God, he's back in the lineup.
He is,
and he showed his one-on-one skills right there.
That was nice. And Tocchet's going to bench him now. He said,
right. No, they're not bench him. They just sent him right to Tucson between periods.
He's on his way. Right after his goal, he's down to Tucson.
He made a very nice move there and beat Anderson on the right side. And Erik Karlsson was kind of just drifting right there.
Yeah.
And he's still having a Karlsson getting on him a little bit.
Yeah.
The severity of his surgery was pretty amazing.
Oh, it was.
Bone cadaver being put in, and didn't start till late, and he talks about his injury more than any hockey player I've ever heard of.
Yeah,
getting into the details of it. I don't have the same push, and I'm learning to do this. I mean, if I'm Radko Gudas on the Flyers the next time I play Ottawa, that stick, I know where it's going, right on the boot. They're going to suspend me anyways. I might as well make it worthwhile. But hopefully the Coyotes here. It's nice they bounce back quickly to even things up with Ottawa. They're on the road. Long road trips can go a long way for bonding a team.
Yeah, hopefully that's the case here. I mean, they definitely have played better over the last little while.
They have.
But, you want to start seeing some results on the ice. And sure, it's a tough situation despite still being early, per se, in the year. They're so far back.
Right.
That, even if you go on a nice run, it would be really tough to get in playoff contention. But, just take it a game at a time. And young guys keep improving. And that's the key, sort of the long-term thing there. Hopefully for the Coyotes and their fans, they
put it this way: if they reeled off 10 in a row, they're still below 500.
Right? It's unbelievable.
Okay, so think about that. So if they win 20 out of your next 30, is what you need to do.
Oh, basically, remember that New Jersey team from? It might have been like 4 or 5 years ago. I think it's when they ended up drafting Adam Larson the year before that, or something like that, where they were terrible to start the year. But then they went on some run where the last 20, 30 games, they only had lost like 2 or 3 games. And they missed the playoffs still, but they actually made it somewhat interesting when they were just flat out terrible for most of the year. And then they go on that one run. And, but at least for the Coyotes, game at a time, just, start improving. And, I think they'll be they'll pick it up a bit, but I think second half, they'll have a lot more success. I think some of the guys, chemistry, things like that could be a little better, and we'll start seeing that, maybe buying in with Tocchet's system, more things along those lines. And so at least long term, hopefully that would help, but we'll see, man. There's so many good teams and talent out there that other teams that they might not have those sexy names, as far as young guys, but these guys are developed just so well by their organizations that these guys come up, I haven't heard of him, and all of a sudden he turns into a 20, 25 goal scorer off the bat. So there's just so much parity out there. You never know what could happen.
The other day I was looking at, and I need to get in my four-wheel and drive down to Tucson and catch a Roadrunners game. Because I'm interested in Dylan Strome and exactly what kind of player he is. And he's young. Okay, let's be honest. He is young.
Yeah.
But the book is starting to get written on him that he might be the type of player that can't make the jump for some reason. And that's
possible.
And let's hope that's not the case, because he's putting up good numbers in Tucson. Merkley's putting up good numbers in Tucson. But it hasn't been able to correlate up here. And think about it. You're 3-14-3, whatever the Coyotes are, and he's not here.
Yeah.
Why not? I mean, this is where you play him.
Right.
You know, and Duclair, play him. I want to see what he does over 82 games. Now, if the year ends and he's got a minus 35 and he only scored 7 goals, okay, because that guy had opportunity. And it goes back to what I said last week. There's not a better player out there that can take the spot of Zach Ronaldo.
Yeah, no, I agree. There's no doubt that Strome should be able to do that. The only thing I can think of is if because they have sort of the losing environment going on, maybe they say, here, let's get him really take control of his game, start dominating in Tucson, and then let's bring him up. So if you do it like that and you do it properly, okay, I could see it. But, yeah, the game's seems like it's changed so much that even though he's just 20, because he was a third overall pick and now the draft's a couple of years ago, it's like nowadays you really expect that player to already be on the roster. A few years, maybe some time back, you see maybe slower development sometimes with these guys, but, who knows if it's, maybe with the skating, they're thinking, yeah, even though his numbers are there might be just something, and that's why I'm with you. I wouldn't mind going down there, kind of checking out the overall game of him now.
Right, I will. I mean, some of the larger networks were talking about him the other day, and they're throwing the same questions around. Why is he down there?
Yeah.
Can his game equate to the it's not like, his brother has had some success. He's the brother's struggling in Edmonton. It's not been a good move there.
Right.
We wish him well, But if you look at what the Coyotes did with Domi, Duclair, and Calvert, when they first came up, let them play.
Yeah.
And they're going to make mistakes.
Right, that's how you learn.
Right,
yeah.
and they're going to score, but they're going to make mistakes. And this is the year you do it, because this year should be all about development and identity.
Oh, yeah.
Throw the playoffs right out the window. Don't even bring it up, because it's an unfair carrot to put out there in front of the players.
Yeah, just focus on your game.
Right. This is the system. I want you to fit into that system with your game. I'm going to trust in you.
Yeah.
Go for it.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
And that's one of the main reasons why Coach Tocchet is in here, because when Coach Tippett was here, he may have been a little bit less enthusiastic about a young player and letting him develop.
Right.
And making mistakes.
Yeah.
Okay. He wanted to do everything he could to grind the game between the blue lines. He had Mike Smith. He had some good veterans and tried to win the 1-goal game.
Yeah.
All right. Well, the game has changed.
Yeah.
All right. Let these guys play. Let's see what we have. And generally it's been happening with Fisher and Perlini and and Dvorak and some guys are going to step back. The sophomore year is always a step back.
Yeah.
But you got to let them play. I mean, I miss the most this year is Chychrun not playing, because he could have been the guy, and he still could be the guy.
Yeah.
Because the moves that were made, getting older, didn't help this team.
Right.
Chalmelson right now, he's hurt. Murphy, I don't want to go down that road again, because I still think the Blackhawks got the better of the deal. Younger defenseman, you don't move those things. So let these kids play.
Yeah, no, I think when Chychrun is healthy, because I think that was the thing with some of those moves that were made, is that when they looked at their potential top 6 before Chychrun went down in the offseason with the injury, is that okay, it looks pretty good, but I think losing him is, and you wouldn't think a huge effect in the point he's still real young and, the other 5 guys still there, but it almost seems like, they're not in the proper place now. And maybe once he's back and healthy, good to go, is maybe, at some point that could happen where maybe everyone's playing in the spots in the back end where they should be. And possibly you'll see more success from the defensive core there. But, yeah, I love Chalmelson. I think he's one of the most underrated players in the league and what he does from a defensive standpoint. And, I like the addition. The thing is, if you're not a contender yet, that's where it becomes interesting, where wonder if they might even look to move him at some point, because now teams that are contenders right now will say, what good does he do right now for you guys? Now, obviously, the good is that, he will help the young guys and stuff. But, they might be able to get significant offers for a guy like that.
Well, I would have to think that come before trade line or before deadline, you'd have to do something like that because I still think they picked up a pretty banged-up body.
Yeah, he has gone through a lot over the years.
Right.
And
there's a lot of players like that, too. I mean, and a lot of it has to do with all that postseason play. I mean, if you look at Duncan Keith, you look at Seabrook, look at Schamelson. I don't see it in Drew Doughty yet. I mean, but he's played a ton of games.
Oh, yeah.
And it takes a massive wear and tear on your body. And Schamelson blocked a lot of shots.
It's amazing.
It is. And
I think he is a UFA after next year, I believe. So
he's not on the hook for a lot of money.
Right, and that's the thing. I mean, his hit right now, I think it's a 4.1 cap hit, and total salary a little less. I mean, $100,000 less, but it's that point where a lot of contenders should be able to fit that in. And for the Coyotes, it will be will we be contending next season? If they really believe they will be, then obviously it's a big piece to have. But on the other hand, if you don't think you'll be a big-time contender, a Stanley Cup contender yet, or there's still work to be done, I think, you might have to look at, man, what a great piece to have. But on the other hand, right now we can get these assets back. But there's so much that goes on behind it. I mean, the leadership and everything, and teaching some of the other young defensemen some of the tricks that he has up his sleeve. So something I will talk about over the next couple months here, if stuff like that might become an option at some point.
Yeah, I mean, the Coyotes have room under the cap. I mean, they have. When this signing was made, and I'm not doing it to go negative on the player, I think the Goligoski contract is going to be the big hindrance.
Yeah, that's not a good.
It's not. It was bad when it was signed. Mm-hmm. He's got 3 years left after this at 6'1", 5'8", Granted, it does drop down.
Right.
But after this year, he's basically on the hook for $17 million. Mm-hmm. And I know they brought him in as a transition guy, and I get it. I understand you need that. Mm-hmm. He's not a game changer.
Yeah, no, he's not. And like you said, the bright spot for them would be they'll be no more near the cap, limit per se. So they're fine with that. But on the other hand, I mean, you got to get some of those guys that you do bring in long term. That even if they are there to kind of hold the fort till younger guys are ready to go, you still want them to contribute at a high level. And I think Goligoski has been a bit better. I mean, we'll see. But I still think the Hjalmarsson one's interesting because I love the player, and I think what he could bring, so underrated. And that's what makes it tough, is even if you're not contending, he's still a guy that helped the young guys. But on the other hand, just think of what you could get for a guy that you may lose after next season anyways. When you're not contending, you might as well. And think of that, he come back from injury and, get his value kind of back up there, which I think he can. And it would be interesting come deadline time this year, because if they moved him this season, the team would still have all of next year with him as well, so it wouldn't just be a rental situation.
Right.
So they can probably get significant assets if they went that way.
Now, flipping the coin here a little bit, I want to ask you how disappointed you are in the Mike Camilleri trade.
Man, oh man.
They didn't give him a chance.
Well, they you know what? It's weird because, they didn't. What happened is Alex Iafallo, and even though Iafallo's stats don't look pretty, he actually really good speedster and creating a lot of room, for Kopitar and Dustin Brown, which is sort of why those guys, I think, have bounced back. And so with Camilleri, I think it was a situation where they go, wow, man, we now get Gaborik back pretty soon, and Camilleri, obviously, speed-wise, has lost a step, but you could still see the hands are there. And in limited ice time, decent numbers. The thing is that, he was in the bottom six role, and he didn't like it, and I think Rob Lake, Kings GM, also knew, it's just not a fit in that regard. So I think a little of it for Camilleri will do you a favor, get you in a position to succeed, because trading him to a division rival where – sure, he's not the old Camilleri of 4 or 5 years ago, but on the other hand, if he plays like with McDavid at all, I mean, anyone would have success. But he still has a great shot, and
He does, but Edmonton, as we're finding out this year, is slow.
They are. Well, is it Chiarelli, how he kind of had built with the Bruins? Obviously, they had success, but maybe at that time, because, Lucic, the big deal they gave him, and as much as I like Patrick Maroon, I think he's...
They're top six of Edmonton.
It's
the not good.
Yeah.
You know what? And I know that, Chiarelli made the comment, we're running out of runway here to make a run for the playoffs. Mm-hmm. So I understand. I mean, they trading Jokinen for Camilleri. These aren't the moves that are going to make or break either franchise.
Right. Oh, yeah.
Jokinen's had a history. He's been a good player throughout the career. Mm-hmm. Camilleri is not going to take Edmonton to the promised land.
Right.
But
they're hoping maybe both guys a change of scenery, could kind of do it there. But, we'll see. Camilleri still on the power play could help you. But, if he's in the right spot. But definitely speed-wise, you could tell he's having a little bit of trouble, keeping up. And that's just something because the Oilers already on the wings are pretty slow. And it's funny to think of the Oilers as a slow team.
Right.
Because you always think they have that fast ice there. And
they're not.
Everything.
And it's magnified by the fact is there's nobody in that team that can skate with Connor McDavid. There's not many in the league anyways.
Well, right, but still, that makes a lot of sense. And easier said than done with them. Now, they did make a quick comeback. This is that 2-goal thing already where Dallas had a quick 2-0 lead. Now it's 2-2. Calgary and Philly are now tied at 4. Going into the third. Yeah. Well, it was just 3-1, it seemed like, and now 4-4. So that's part of that excitement going on there. Yeah, it was 3-1, and then Sean Monahan scored 2 quick goals.
Good play.
3-3. Nolan Patrick, 4-3, and then Monahan completes his hat trick, tie the game at 4. So
Patrick probably got hurt again and went on IR.
Well, he did actually. Right as the puck went, during the game they put him on IR.
And I don't mean to joke. I know he just missed 9 games, but that was his concern coming out of the draft. Yeah. Injuries. This time it was a different injury. It was upper body versus the dreaded groin injury. But it's interesting.
Yeah, no, without a doubt. But it sounds like a great game going on there, though. High scoring and, a hat trick in 1 period there for Monahan. And he has an assist as well on Johnny Gaudreau's goal. So a 4-point night or day, as I guess we would say, a matinee going on. Gaudreau has a goal and 2 assists there for them. So, a good game going on there. But, Edmonton with their quick comeback, and I bet we'll see that Camilleri scored them both. He did. No, McDavid with a goal and so a goal and an assist right now for him. But 2 quick goals to tie it. They scored, 2 goals in under a minute to get one shorthanded, and then they ended up getting a power play and getting it done there. So that's just how the league is going, and we got to love it. It's some fun stuff going on.
A couple of topics to touch on when we come back from the break. Coming up here is a good friend in Philly, Radko Gudas. What does the future look for him this week at his hearing? Mm-hmm. I have some ideas what they should be.
Right.
And also, who's the first coach this year that's going to be fired? Mm-hmm. We touched on that. And then, do you think there's going to be one more big blockbuster trade before the deadline?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we'll talk about all that good stuff.
We will.
Yeah, it's definitely that time. Things are really kicking into gear, and as you get to that quarter mark, now we kind of see the teams that, come out the way you would expect them to in some ways. Sometimes teams get off the hot start that maybe aren't as good as they are, or teams struggle that they pick it up, and, we'll wait to see, could Edmonton get back to where we think, or are they just too slow, and other things along those lines. But this is Real Hockey Talk, broadcasting on NBC Sports Radio AM 1060. Greg alongside Rick, the hockey guru, here from studio today. Another half hour left in the show, and we'll be back after this break.
NBC Sports Radio AM 1060 KDUS Tempe Phoenix and KSLX HD2 Scottsdale Phoenix.
And welcome back to Real Hockey Talk right here on NBC Sports Radio AM 1060. Greg alongside Rick, the hockey guru, and they're going to be making another Halloween film next year. It comes out October 19th, 2018. Playing the role of Michael Myers will be one Ratko
Gudis.
Yes.
The Ratko Gudis.
The slashing, come on, man.
The tomahawk chop.
Oh, just terrible.
I think he thought he was at an Atlanta Braves baseball game.
Yeah. Oh, just brutal.
But on a positive side, he apologized to the player from the penalty box.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. So Perreault Perreault, was he badly injured on the play? Or?
No, he wasn't. And the Ottawa's taking a 2-1 lead here on a kind of a big rebound that was given up. But this is, if my math is right, this is going to be suspension number 3 for. That was a bad rebound. That was almost like Ronta gets the assist on that one. He's been suspended for 3 and 6. The Zarnik hit to the head last year that caused a concussion. Mm-hmm. He had the Zabinadad slash the year before for 3. Now, Perreault on this one did get up. Initially, though, it was just a 2-minute call.
Right.
And then they conferred and they said, no, this is a 5 in a game.
Oh, yeah, that's good.
And the fact that the player wasn't severely hurt, to me, is meaningless.
I'm with you there.
Because that shaft, 1 inch on either side to a vulnerable spot, this guy has a reputation, he has a legacy, and it better be 10 games.
You would think you would have to, without a doubt, because the history behind it is, and I know they look at that a lot, and that's obviously a big thing since he's a repeat offender. But man, oh man, I mean, how brutal that could have been for Perreault.
He just snaps. Yeah. He's like the pit bull that all of a sudden attacks.
Oh yeah,
absolutely. And he says he has that problem. He didn't even remember doing it.
Yeah, see, that's actually really scary.
That's not good. Okay, now we're in O.J. Simpson territory.
Oh right, yeah.
I mean, the league has to have a statement, and someone's either going to get killed, and the penalty is not severe enough. A 5-minute major, big deal.
Nothing. Yeah.
Either make it 10 or just award the guy get a goal. You got to do something. Right. You have to severely punish the team for that person doing that infraction.
Oh, without a doubt, and and when they get to the point where the suspension's handed out, all that stuff is because of the fact that just in the blink of an eye, how he could just flip out, and a lot of players do. You're in the heat of the moment, but on the other hand, to that extent, and as you said, him saying he doesn't remember, I think you got to bring like a doctor involved at some point to say, look, we got to make sure that you're fit to play because, you're right. I mean, you could kill a guy. I mean, he could have killed basically.
Right, think about if he breaks in that. What if he just slit him, cut him on the side of the neck?
Sure, yeah.
Anything. I mean, it's...
Right.
And I think the thing that bothered me the most is, and here I'm going back into my Wayback Machine again, but the players have to police the game themselves.
Yeah.
The fact that he's been in the league this long and getting away with it speaks volumes of how the game has changed.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, someone has to send a message to this particular player, and it hasn't happened for some reason. And it doesn't have to be done in a dirty way. It has to be done. I don't see that guy getting run every single game.
Yeah, absolutely, and that doesn't happen at all to him. And I know one thing is guys might be a little afraid of him with his size, and they know, what if he snaps on me? But that's why, they definitely got to set the tone here with the suspension and really get someone involved, a doctor or somebody that could sort of evaluate and say, look, man, this can't happen. I mean, and
because there's no retribution against that player.
No.
That game because he's booted.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
All right, so you're going to be like baseball. You're going to get in the beanball situation. Okay, now I'm going to go after the next best Flyers defenseman and send a message. That's stupid.
Oh, yeah.
Or I'm going to run the goalie. I mean, you're not going to do that.
See that. Yeah.
Yeah, you're not going to do that. The Ottawa Senators are completely dominating the Coyotes in their own end right now. So come on, Coyotes, clear the puck, Clear the puck. There we go. And they need a line change.
Now, we don't have the sound out, and I'm not reading the captions, but I bet Tyson Nash is saying how much the Coyotes are dominating.
Probably, and he's raving about the save Ranta just made, but that wasn't a pass that he gave to the Ottawa player. I mean, well, you got to remember who's signing your paycheck, too. So.
Right. And no disrespect, Tyson. We've had him on the show, and terrific guy. I'm not the biggest fan of his commentary per se, but I don't want to say much. I mean, he's in obviously a great position and loved by the fans and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, sometimes and like you said, it might not be all on him. Sometimes behind the scenes they might say, yeah, you gotta kind of lean this way, that way, but homerism, that's fine. It happens, and a little of it is great. But there's sometimes things that are said, I'm like, come on, Tyson, you're smarter than that.
And in some fan bases, that type of rah-rah is not tolerated.
Oh, I agree.
Because if the team's bad, it's bad. And not I'm going to say you're going to pile on the team for all their for the errors they're making. But, I mean, if you go back to some franchises, you do that in Montreal. I mean, they're running around like chickens with their head cut off, and you're raving about the Lindgren save that he just made. Okay, it's meaningless.
What a save! The save of the game from center ice. He dumped it in, and it was. Yeah, it's wow.
Nice save where Shen there saved the Coyotes from going down 3-1.
Luke Shen.
He's been playing pretty well. Got to give him credit.
Yeah.
Connaughton's been playing well. Shen's been playing well. Goligoski's kind of, he is what he is. I mean, nobody at this time expected number 23 to be where he's at. With the plus minus and the it's almost like a lack of confidence a little bit when the game ends. Is like
it might be.
Giving up the puck like nothing at your own blue line, and the other team walking in. So hopefully they get it around. But I think there's going to be a blockbuster. Yeah. Before the trade deadline, just because teams, if you look at the teams right now that are slowly moving out of position, their barges going up the Mississippi River. Instead of going straight to Minneapolis, they're kind of going off to the banks. Yeah. And someone's going to say, what do I got to do to put this barge back on the right track? Mm-hmm. I floated the idea. I posted this on our Twitter account for the Bruins. Is it the time to move Tuukka?
Oh, okay.
I think he has an untradeable contract. He's up there like David Krejci. He's up there. Kubodin's getting start number 2 in a row. Now Kubodin is 4-0-2 this year.
Oh, okay.
And the Bruins, they're a 500 team with their injuries, and Tuukka has not been the Tuukka of the past. And Tuukka is not the prototypical large-framed goaltender. Mm-hmm. He's kind of wiry and tall, and goes on his instincts and his ability. But if you're going to move someone like that, where would you move him? You don't really have a number one to take his place. So unless you move and get something, you're killing your team. Mm-hmm. If I called Peter Chiarelli and I'm Don Sweeney, and I say, hey, I got an idea right here that might help both teams, and hopefully we meet in June to find out if it works. Would you be interested in Tuukka Rask? We might be interested in Talbot. Let's sweeten the deal a little bit here. And that way would give the Bruins technically a number one for year-end. Mm-hmm. Talbot wouldn't have to be playing 70 games a year. Right. And maybe Tuukka needs a different environment. Mm-hmm. And what else could move in there? I'm not saying I take Lucic back because his trade is a burden. Yeah. His salary, is a burden. But I think you might see something happen. Look at some of the teams that are struggling.
It's possible. I mean, that's the thing is with the cap era is what would you do? Let's say Edmonton, Chiarelli would be interested in something around those parameters. It just would be the long-term thing, with Edmonton is how you fit that contract in. And so, sweetening the pot, as you mentioned, the other things around it is what would that be potentially? But, yeah, I wouldn't be shocked maybe seeing something like that. I agree that we'll see at least one more blockbuster before the deadline. A lot of time, a couple months to go. But you'll start seeing here after Thanksgiving probably a few more minor deals, things maybe going on. Teams now kind of see where they're at and what they may need and stuff like that. But, yeah, I think we'll be in that, not just that, but some at least one or two decently sized to bigger surprise names, I believe, could be moved. Maybe one of those moves where I had no clue that guy was on the trade block, or something like that could come up. And we'll see. I mean, I always like when there's a lot of activity. Things are always pumped up, and then when the actual trade deadline itself comes, usually you're just sitting there watching TSN and nothing great happens. But leading up to it, yeah, I think at least one more, of the Duchesne type of magnitude. At least, I think 2 or 3 could be possible.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things, when you're driving around and you're saying, today I'm a GM, what would I do?
Yeah.
And I'm looking, okay, could I pry Ryan Nugent-Hopkins away from the Oilers? I mean, he's not the guy anymore.
Right.
He's a centerman. Edmonton needs speed.
Yeah.
The Bruins have a lot of speed. Now, a lot of these kids are younger, the Zarniks, the Heinens, the Borks, the DeBrusks, people like that. But these guys can fly now, and teams are looking for that.
Yeah, no, definitely. That speed game, I mean, it's big. But, yeah, and we'll see that. I mean, even with guys, UFAs to be, I mean, you would think Vegas would move James Hill. Now, for some reason, Vegas stays in the playoff
Right now,
picture.
they're keeping him.
Yeah, but, if you get to that point where they come back down a bit, he's a guy that would be, again, it's not a long-term guy per se. I mean, your team could sign him long-term after they get him, but, you get that situation where a rental, but a guy that could provide, a lot of offense there. Evander Kane has his issues. He's a UFA coming up. Does a team take a chance knowing that if somehow you could keep him a bit in check, he could provide a lot on the ice. It's just the off the ice what he provides.
You got Tavares.
Yeah, and it'd be interesting because if the Islanders, let's say, aren't in it, even if they don't have him signed or even if it doesn't seem like it's close, do you think they would move him to get something, or do you think there'll be too much pride in it saying, no, let's keep him, hope that we could get something done?
Right now, they're an explosive team with him.
Yeah.
I mean, they're scoring a lot of goals. I mean, Islanders are surprised. At least for me, they were surprised that they're doing right now.
Yeah.
I don't like the fact that they have a tandem goalie situation with the Halak and Greiss. That, to me, never works. Mm-hmm. So I think there's room there for the Islanders maybe doing something. Is there a wink that Tavares could go somewhere and he's going to give that wink, yeah, I'm going to sign with you? Mm-hmm. Can that work? Mm-hmm. Can you do a sign and trade? Mm-hmm. And I think people would be open to that. But I don't know what he wants. We don't have that level of detail. Yeah. But let's look at the Blackhawks. Mm-hmm. That team right now has gotten old.
They have.
Okay, Taves is not the same player. Mm-hmm. They're missing Hossa. They're missing Panarin's goals. I mean, Saad's doing fine, but they got old. And they're right now floating to be a 500 hockey team. Mm-hmm. Is it time for the Blackhawks to make a blockbuster?
It's, very possible. I wouldn't be shocked if Stan Bowman, obviously they're always looking for ways to improve, but he's the type of GM I could really see, looking what creative thing could I do right now. It's just tough because obviously you don't have necessarily the young guns you can move to get a guy that could really help now. You have some good young players in the lineup that, are playing pretty well, and they develop pretty nicely, but not to that point where now you could move them. They don't have the greatest trade value, and even if they did, you don't want to really move them. So if you do something like a move where you move a star player to try to get another star player, I'm wondering if that's something they would ever sort of consider, if they would consider at some point going, okay, Mr. Kane, move him for a different type of player or something along those lines. I'm not saying they should or would, but that's the only type of thing I can see, like an actual hockey trade with them.
Now, I'm Buffalo, and once again, I am mired in my own, disaster up outside the lake, and they're struggling, and, Jack Eichel is not playing like a guy. I think he looks like he's a frustrated hockey player right now because he doesn't have much around him.
Yeah.
I've always said would Buffalo try to get homeboy Patrick Kane in a Buffalo Sabres uniform? So if there was a Stan Bowman phone call that came from Phil Housley in Buffalo and said, hey, let's swap the Canes. You've got Evander for a year, and you have my first-round draft pick this year and next year. If you're Chicago, would you do it?
No, because the Evander situation, I don't think Evander has the greatest trade value, but some of the off-the-ice stuff and the fact that you could lose him after this year, as great as getting, the value of the 2 first-round picks, the fact is if Patrick went there, it would improve Buffalo enough to where, maybe they don't get back and make the playoffs, but where it would be a tough for them to win one of the top 3 picks probably. And so you'd still have a pretty good pick, but not great. I think if you moved him, you would have to see if you could get maybe a great young defenseman back as well as some of the picks. Or
Ritzalainen.
Yeah, and it's tough because, you can't give up
D-man
those
like
guys. And that's what makes – but I see what you're saying. It's Patrick Kane, if they ever did get to that point where there is a move with him, Buffalo would just be ideal for the reasons he gave. It's just tough to find a dance partner, really, with these things.
Yeah, these are blockbusters we're talking about right now. Is someone willing to do that? I think you might. You talked about Neil. Are they going to move him? Well, right now, no, because you're in the hunt.
Yeah.
Unless they go on a run where they lose 15 out of the next 20, which I don't see it happening because they're a tough team to play against.
Yeah.
Are you going to, if all of a sudden Subban starts playing pretty well, do you float Marc-Andre Fleury? Trade deadline. Would if you're Edmonton, would you rather have Talbot in net or Fleury in net?
Man. Well, okay. Fleury, but, I'm wondering when he got claimed by Vegas, did his no movement clause disappear? I know sometimes when you switch teams, it does. Because I don't know if really there's anywhere else. But obviously, if he would have that opportunity, to play there, and Edmonton picks it up to where, they'll be back in the playoffs, and they, of course, I would think he would like it. You have McDavid in front of you and those guys, but you'd still face a lot of pucks, obviously.
How about you're Montreal and you have Carey Price?
Yeah, I would just try to move him. Get out of that contract.
He's not. That's questionable right now why he's not playing. It's some are saying upper body injury, some are saying it's a between the ears injury.
Yeah,
and he's frustrated, and I don't blame him. He just signed a pretty long-term contract that's spread out over time. That's on a good team. I think he's almost in the Patrick Roy situation. Is that guy needs a change of space?
I'm with you there. It's so unfortunate because, of course, with Carey Price, even if he's off his game a bit or whatnot, teams know, potentially when he's on,
he's the best.
Yeah, and that contract, though, it's just tough with the cap era. But it could be a team that has a ton of space that's not a contender right now, possibly, that could jump in, take on most of the contract. Maybe Montreal, could still take some of the cap, but it's a tough one.
I think Montreal would insist on taking none of it.
It's just they wouldn't get
best goalie in the world. I'm trading you to you. Would you move? Would you take Price in Arizona for Ranta, Ekman-Larsson, and Perlini?
No, because of the contract, one thing, but. If somehow you could, if you made a move around Price and taking on the whole deal for Ranta.
Oh yeah,
but see, I wouldn't give up anything else of value. I just
really you wouldn't
do that.
You wouldn't if you're John Shaker, if you wouldn't take Price for Ranta, Ekman-Larsson.
No, because the goaltending. When you look out there, usually goaltenders' trade value is a little less, at least, than other positions. For whatever reason, even though it may be the most important position, with everything that goes on, because if your goaltender's allowing softies, that affects the whole team. But if they make the big saves when they have to, obviously, that's huge. But I just don't think, that's something where I think there's just too much risk in there, and I think if they get to the point where they do move Ekman Larsson, they're going to look for, assets that are different, maybe, get another young defenseman and young forward or some picks, whatever they might do. But I just think for a goaltender like that, I think they'll just try a different route, either with Ranta, hoping that things work out, or, whether if it doesn't somehow, or if he keeps getting hurt, something like that, a different plan B. I mean, on the positive side, if you got a guy like Carey Price somehow, just the name recognition alone for out here would be huge. Mm-hmm. And obviously, if he played like the best goaltender in the league, that would be amazing. But I just wouldn't give up that significance of value, especially with that contract, because it'd almost be like negotiating with yourself. Because deep down, I think Marc Bergevin doesn't know what he's doing, but if they had someone that knew what they were doing, I think if they had the opportunity to get rid of that deal, even if they didn't get the significant value back, I think they would be like, yeah, I think we'll do it now.
Montreal cannot score.
And that's the thing, is that, and now how much cap will they have over the years to really, right. And now Galchenyuk, he's not having a good year, and I think if he was moved in the right spot, he could be a really good player. Problem is his trade value now. If they did try to move him, what do they get?
Right.
I think Bergevin's really he needs to go.
Yeah.
Is he still there?
He's still, as of this morning, he was still there.
Yeah.
I mean, I think these are some of the conversations that might be taking place. I mean, obviously it's a little grandiose us throwing them out there, but I think there's teams. You look at Winnipeg.
Oh, yeah.
And I remember and I agree with you were high on Winnipeg, mm-hmm. and it's proven to be the fact. What I liked about them is I knew Hellebuck was going to be the guy
you were right
versus
on
Mason
with
because of his pedigree at UMass Lowell. I saw the guy play, and so now you have Mason maybe as a commodity that could be moved. Uh-huh. Does he have value? No. I mean, he doesn't have big value. He's in that Brian Elliott mode.
Right.
You're not going to get much for him. But there are teams up there that think they're going to make a run. Okay, Calgary made a run. They're making a run, and they're doing it with Mike Smith.
Yeah.
There are going to be some teams up there that think they're going to have a chance, and they may move some players. Let's see how far New Jersey goes.
Right.
I think they're going to start to stumble. They still have deficiencies. Mm-hmm. They're fast. Yes, they're entertaining. I think they're still they're gonna take a little step back here, and I still don't have them making the playoffs. Mm-hmm. But there's trade bait out there, and I think I just feel the sense that there's a blockbuster out there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And I think it could be a surprise type of move. And
yes.
Yeah, maybe with Montreal, see, if Montreal is Bergevin, if he had a brain. No, but if he figured a way out, you could always have a few things lined up, knowing at least long term, if I do get rid of this contract, sure, we lose potential top goalie in the world, although with them, will he ever be that again? Maybe not, because of the situation. So if you could free up that cap space, even though you won't get equal value for the actual player per se, you could use it in other places. But the problem is, they don't have a lot of other trade assets probably that they can move for guys that could help. And then if you do look through free agency, let's say they have cap space this offseason, John Tavares makes it. Still, I mean, you don't really want to build a team through free agency, but also the fact that would you even be able to sign him with all the other clubs that, would be in the running? And, man, it's tough. Montreal would be, it would be, I mean, hockey's great up there. What a great fan base. That's got to be so tough right now. They were so close a couple years ago, and he's really took them backwards.
He has. So it's going to be interesting. I was slowly running out of time right now. I just wanted to give a shout-out to the ASU Devils hockey team. I did gone to a couple of games this year. It's been extremely entertaining. They beat Alabama Huntsville a couple of weeks ago. Unfortunately, they did not play well against Penn State last night out of Gila River. They're going to give them another shot tonight, but we'll have Coach Powers on the line here in in a couple of weeks, they had once again another fantastic incoming class of kids. And I want to talk to Coach Powers about that because these kids are coming here and they're committing to ASU hockey for one main reason. They're going to get minutes and they're going to play.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and that's pretty cool. So if you get a chance and you're in the Glendale area tonight at I believe the game's at 7 o'clock tonight out in Glendale, go out and check out the ASU Sun Devils hockey. You can't beat it.
Absolutely, and thank you to our great producer crew and Rick, the hockey guru, and everybody. Have a great Thanksgiving, and this is Real Hockey Talk, NBC Sports Radio, AM 1060.